What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast presented by our friends over at Mountain America Credit Union. I'm feeling super jazzed to be back on your screen talking basketball today, and specifically the Phoenix Mercury. Obviously, they played in their first preseason game. We're going to get into all of that here shortly. But I'm joined by PG1, QB1, MVP, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, PG1. Did I already say that? Stephen for John Garner, how the heck are you doing today?
Here.
You took a long time to get to that, by the way.
Suns exit interviews, Mercury practice, Suns 3 o'clock pod, Merc 5:30 pod. We are here.
Hardest working man I know.
Here. I'm looking forward to talking some Mercury for sure. What capacity I'm here in, we can just get to the show, but I'm here.
All that matters is you're here.
I pulled up for sure. How you doing?
We just got a few shells of humans in here. And then we obviously got the newest edition of the show, Gil McGregor, joined all the way. Is that to our right? I guess everyone sees what I see, so everybody's right. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. I didn't do as much as him, but I was at exit interviews with him as well, and then Sun show, but now Merc show. So this is giving me an energy boost. So I'm here. I'm energized. I'm ready to get into it.
I could make some jokes about winning basketball, but I always stay away from them just because, I'm a Dylan Brooks fan. I can't be making those jokes on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. That just feels a little wrong, but, I got to slide one in there. So you guys ready to talk about some winning basketball,
Wow.
I'm ready.
Y'all know I had to do it to him. But nonetheless, obviously, Kevo behind the Mac, driving the bus, pushing the X's and O's, making sure everything goes off without a hitch today. We got you guys in the chat today, Dolores, Rob, Soul Collector, who I actually don't think I've ever seen in this chat before. So I'm excited. We got a new soul in here. Be sure to leave a like, thumbs up, 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. Become a diehard because, quite frankly, I just saw one of the diehards is, trying to get other diehards to go to the Mercury game with them tomorrow, and you can't be in on that unless you're in the Discord. So you got to be a diehard, become friends with all of us. I would argue that, I'm not going to lie, I think we have one of the best communities in all of basketball just right here in our Discord. So I think it's pretty cool. Become a diehard and join so we can talk some hoops in private chat. It's a fun time in there. So, and also obviously my fantasy league where I'm probably going to lose for the third year in a row. That's okay with me, albeit I am the queen of forgetting to set my lineup. You know who would never forget to set his lineup though?
Who was that?
I'm going to go Nate Tibbetts. That man would never, ever forget to set his lineup. And, I wanted to start today's show off rip talking about South Dakota and the state and how, touched I was.
Such
watching
words
that
have
game.
never been uttered on a basketball podcast in the history of podcasting.
It's really true. I mean,
First time for
I
everything.
never
And
thought.
there's a great
yeah.
reason for it.
I never knew that I would be a South Dakota expert, but nonetheless, here we are. I feel like I have been versed in South Dakota basketball culture over the last 5 days, and I feel #blessed to have been a part of that in any way, even if it was remotely. I think that obviously the Mercury played their first preseason game versus the Chicago Sky in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is, if you didn't know, Nate Tibbetts' hometown, as well as Megan Vogel's home state. Megan Vogel, assistant coach for the Phoenix Mercury. And I want to start by talking about Kahleah Copper coming out in Nate Tibbetts' jersey. Kevin, if you can just show these dang pictures, because first of all, look how fly she looks. Second of all, she wears number 4. I mean, there's not a whole lot of, or he wears number 4. I'm sorry. I'm so used to talking about women playing basketball. I don't even know how to say he does anything. But South Dakota, obviously graduate. He's in the South Dakota Hall of Fame, Nate Tibbetts is, and Kahleah Copper showed up and showed out in his jersey. And I'm thinking back to, Diana Taurasi's last game in Mortgage Matchup Center or whatever you want to call it. At the time it was. But, everyone showed up in Phoenix Mercury Diana Taurasi jerseys, or even a few of them showed up in UConn jerseys. And I was getting the same vibe. And obviously it wasn't the whole team. And I don't know that they had enough South Dakota jerseys to go around, to be quite honest with you. But being that it was your franchise player that came out in your jersey, I just got to say that's some freaking cool stuff right there. I don't know that there's a whole lot of other words that I could say about it other than it's freaking cool. I think obviously we've talked at length on this podcast about how bought in Kahleah Copper is to what Nate Tibbetts has been trying to do for the last 2 seasons. And then to carry that over into season 3 with basically not an entire new roster, but a whole lot of new faces in the building. I just can't express how meaningful that is to an organization and its culture.
That's not something you fake, right? Like you like to have that type of relationship. You can go out in front of the cameras and say, "Oh, me and my coach have a relationship," or like we're cool with one another, or we respect one another. I enjoy working with them. But then when you show it, then you can't doubt that. Like the effort went into that. Effort went into showing admiration in that way and recognizing the moment to say, "Listen, I am where my coach came up and became who they are, and I'm gonna just show some love back and show that we have that type of relationship and shows that it's a bond that's deeper than basketball." And oftentimes, regardless of what team it is, you can see every championship team we've ever seen, they have that. It's deeper than basketball. The team enjoys playing with one another and for one another. And then they have a coach that they want to play for and that they care about beyond the game. So to see that, I know it might just seem like a little like gesture that's not that much, but I immediately saw that and was like, that shows a real relationship between star player and head coach. And that means a lot because the star player oftentimes is the leader and the extension of the coach on the court. And to have that is a good sign for the team.
So we have Kah coming out with the DT jersey. We have Kah coming out in an AT jersey. We have Kah coming out in a Nate Tibbetts jersey.
An NT jersey.
An NT jersey to keep up with my man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a long day. I didn't even catch on to that one.
I got you.
Point being with that is we saw a lot of conversations as the Mercury were working their channels for free agency and everything that was the mass free agency of this most recent offseason. And people not being patient with the Mercury doing what they're doing transactionally and saying, okay, well, if Kahleah hasn't signed officially with the Mercury, she must be thinking about going somewhere else. This is why we don't make haste and non-context based assessments on things. No way can you tell me that this preseason game has been scheduled for the Mercury for quite some time. There's a lot of preemptive, premeditated decisions made regarding this, that there was ever anything in question as far as where she was going to be playing basketball this season and next season, as far as her current contract. I'm just like, there's never been more direct examples of someone kind of stepping into leadership in the ways that Kahleah has, and she's become a Phoenix Mercury. Comes in and immediately plays the quote unquote background to everything that was the final season of Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner. She concedes that to them because of everything that they did and what they earned based off of what they did for this city in that jersey. Respects that, learns from that, also succumbs to their leadership to learn the ways of the culture. And then, as fate would kind of have it, basketball poetry, BG decides to take her talents elsewhere. Diana sails off into the sunset, and now she's given the keys. But the keys can't be received if they're not kind of patiently waited for them to be kind of given to her. And I think all of these kind of decisions, these little things, the Mercury don't get this culture without Kahleah being fully bought into everything that they're preaching, but also going out to wear those qualities in the ways that she's shown. And I think her wearing her teammates' jerseys or coach's jersey in multiple capacities over the last 3 seasons now, it really is just another kind of bookmarkable example of the kind of full-on alignment that they've struck. And I think the pieces that they brought in to kind of go around and help Kahleah, it just continues to be directly in lockstep with that kind of beaten path that they've established.
I think above all else, like, and I'm gonna come back to the Kahleah Copper of it all here in a second, but you see it across the entire organization, from the rest of the assistant coaching staff to the rest of the players that are brought in that are brand new to the system or brand new to the franchise. And even like past players, like even Diana Taurasi and the way she talks about Nate Tibbetts, like those things cannot be understated. And and when you have a player of Diana Taurasi or Kahleah Copper's, for that matter, caliber, speaking as highly as they have of this man, it kind of makes all the arguments that were made over, his hiring null and void in my professional opinion. And I only say professional because I am unfortunately paid to talk about basketball. And, there were a lot of opinions flying in and around everywhere about Mr. Nate Tibbetts hiring. And while on one hand, I totally understood the hesitancy to be bought into him right away. On the other hand, when you have a player like Diana Taurasi that that she's going to finish out her career the way she wants to, and she still bought into what Nate Tibbetts was trying to do. And then you have Kahleah Copper, who comes from the Chicago Sky, and that the way that organization is run, and then she's bought into what Nate Tibbetts is trying to do. And then to cap it all off, you get a player of Alyssa Thomas's caliber to buy into what he's trying to do. And then all the things that come with all of those pieces. So I just don't think that Nate Tibbetts' value to this franchise and quite frankly the Valley in general is just it's immense. And like Najee says in the chat, Nate Tibbetts and Alyssa Thomas equals high floor, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And when you have them as bought in as they are, the floor just gets that much higher. I want to talk about
Erica,
the Megan. Oh
you
gosh.
mentioned those opinions. I would like to asterisk opinion, cut it, and put a new word in there. I would say assumptions, but all caps and bold those first 3 letters in the word assumptions, because that's what people made of themselves by hastily jumping to conclusions, having not done their research and understanding, okay, why might the Mercury want to do this? I dare people to just, instead of jumping to conclusions, which is an Olympic sport at this pace, the way people do it on social media and just in life in general, I would dare people to just delve into the why, just pique your own interest a little bit. I don't like this decision. Instead of me saying it's bad, let me go and research and see the why and see if I can make a little bit of sense of it. But then instead of jumping to the conclusion, let me just see how it works before I start to assume. I think doing more or less of the assuming and more of the delving into the why will make us all a lot more informed as a society, but especially as basketball people that consume it. Just be a little patient. And I think that's naturally a bigger conversation we'll end up having again, just like we did last season and the season before that, about people counting the Mercury out in preseason because they didn't like what they maybe did or didn't do in free agency. It's the
Well,
same
Steven,
conversations time and time again.
don't worry because I actually already have an entire episode
Oh, I
planned
know
out
it.
for
I
next
know
week
it.
about how the national media just doesn't know what they're talking about. And I won't get into it too much because like I said, I have a whole hour on it planned for next week. So and actually while we're on the topic of next week, we're back to 2 shows a week, so be prepared to see us on Thursday at 5:30. Don't go anywhere, don't make plans, don't put anything in your little calendars because you're actually already booked up and busy with the PHNX Mercury podcast. And actually we'll stay on the Kahleah topic while we're here. They have a basketball camp in Michigan when they fly in because Lord knows there's no major airports in the state of South Dakota, so they have to fly into Michigan.
Shout out Matt
They make a
Ishbia.
little yeah. They make a little pit stop in Ishbia's hometown, correct, and put on a basketball camp. And at this basketball camp, and I won't stay on the topic of basketball camps for too long, but basketball camps in general are just the coolest thing. I always think about when I was a kid, and like this is gonna sound really screwed up, and I'm really sorry in advance, but like I really had no idea that women played basketball at this capacity as a 5, 6, 7 year old. I saw Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas Roberts. I just assumed everybody that played basketball had big arms and was a man, and so I made assumptions that were wrong, like Steven said, and
Nah,
I made an ass out of
different
myself.
context. That's different
But
context.
you
I
see what
hear
I'm
you
saying,
though.
and
I hear you.
so I made a little bit of a butt out of myself there. But nonetheless, if there was a little bit of a basketball camp put on by one like Kahleah Copper in my hometown, I don't know how I could have possibly gone without my formable years watching the WNBA, watching women's basketball in general. So I cannot express the value of those events enough. They seem like such small things if you're not like a little kid and you're not taking your kid there, but for the community as a whole and for the betterment of the future of women's basketball, like those basketball camps are they're almost more important than the actual games being played themselves. But anyways, Kahleah Copper at the basketball camp, they're signing autographs, they're autographing shoes and promo posters and this, that, and the other. And a little girl comes up to Kahleah Copper and says, "Oh, thank you, Kahleah," when she had done her autograph. And Kahleah said, "How do you know my name?" And the little girl said, "Oh, I watch all your games." And Kahleah asked if she had tickets for the game in South Dakota on the next day. And the little girl said no. The little girl said, "I plan to see you in Minnesota, but I do not, my mom was not able to secure tickets for tomorrow." So what did Kahleah Copper do? Go ahead and show the picture, Kevin. Kahleah Copper gets this girl courtside seats for her and her family. And then not only that, she makes this girl's day, life, I don't know, millennium by giving her the signed shoes at the end of the game. And you look at the smile on both of their faces, and for audio only listeners, just know that they're massive smiles, and it means a lot to that girl, but it also means a lot to Kahleah Copper herself. And so it was just an event for all events, and I'm gonna get back to the Megan Vogel of it all in a minute, but it can't be understated how cool the entire weekend was for the Mercury in South Dakota.
Imagine that little girl grows up to be a WNBA player and then puts on those shoes for their debut on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Full
I'll
circle
cry.
GOAT moment for Kahleah Copper.
That strikes the same accord as Jalen Brunson with the Kobe's,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that that's kind of come full circle for him. To your point, Erica, investing in the future and not just finding ways to marketability wise pique their interest, but literally be involved in their lives in some, like I think about, for me, from the suburb I'm from Chicago, where Michael Finley was from. Suns fans, maybe some Mercury fans know who that is, but it's different when you have these kind of big giants as a kid that you are able to like rub elbows with in some capacity. It makes, like, maybe the biggest thing, especially coming from my area, is showing you that there is a way out, and that there's a direct example, and there are multiple depending on where you're from, of being able to do more, even if it might seem like that's a long way away, or might even seem unattainable just based off of resources and things like that. That matters a lot. And I think that's the type of stuff that makes women's basketball so impactful. Like, people talk about all of the brands that Angel and players like Kahleah and Caitlin have. It's even more what is kind of planting that seed of confidence for young women that love basketball, maybe didn't always see outlets to get into the W. Now there's clear-cut evidence in so many different capacities, from someone as small as Kelsey Mitchell to someone that has the stature of Aaliyah Boston, and everywhere in between. You can make it, and you have direct opportunities maybe in your market as the league continues to expand, so where you can not only spend time with these players in some capacity, but you can watch them closely, follow their steps, and potentially reverse engineer what they found success with and flip it into your own.
Yeah, if you can see it, you can be it, right? And I think that's
Sure.
often said about, camps and outreach and going to play a preseason game in a city and a state that does not get a chance to have WNBA basketball for the entire season. There are a lot of young girls who are able to actually visually see it, and that's probably, it could be their dream. It might have been their dream going into the weekend, and they realized that was their dream because they saw it and realized, oh, hey, like, they're people and grown-ups, like, I want to be like that one day. I want to become that. And I think that that's why it's so important to play games like that, and also to see, oh, hey, their coach is from where I'm from. Like, you can be a basketball player from here. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like, you can make it, as you were saying. So I think that's why it's so important to have that type of connection with people, because it might not have seemed like much, even if it's just a high five or an autograph or whatever it is. Those interactions, like, I can think back to the interactions that I had with players that will stick with me forever. And now those memories were created for them. And it'll be, some of them will play in high school, some will go on to play in college, and some might go on to play in the W. But that planted a seed of belief because they're able to witness it and see it. And then those interactions stick with you for a lifetime.
I got two quick things. No stranger to anybody that's been around me. Big Nipsey Hussle fan.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes is, "The highest human act is to inspire."
Mm-hmm.
And bringing that context to Kahleah Copper, everything that is North Philly and everything that comes with the hustle and bustle and blue collar nature of that, it's a responsibility once you get to even the inkling of success to pass that forward in some capacity. And who would Kahleah Copper be if she wasn't passing that forward in the ways that she received from players like Don Staley?
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of, if you're going to evolve things and grow the game, you got to be an example of what you want to see more of. And that's Kahleah doing what she did based off of what she received when she was younger. And now that's going to be for the next kid that's influenced by Kahleah. that cycle continues. Now you multiply that across the entire W, and now you have something that's going crazy in terms of bringing up all of the things that we just got done speaking to.
Yeah, and I just it was such an important weekend, and I don't want to brush over this like meaningful homecoming for Nate Tibbetts and Megan Vogel, but I do want to talk about it really, really quickly. I think that when you are someone that is Nate Tibbetts and you're in his position, you're brand new to coaching in the W. You have a lot of options about how you can kind of approach things, and this homecoming was just that. It was special. Nate Tibbetts' father won, I don't even know how many state championships, probably in that exact building, if we're being, precise here. And so, for him to coach in that building was already special enough. But then assistant coach Megan Vogel shares this on Instagram. Kevin, if you can just bring it up so I can read it. This place is special, and this place is the Mercury, by the way. But she also means South Dakota. Yesterday, with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter, my boss, Nate Tibbetts, said, "You're up, coach." It was a homecoming for both of us, but this was surely his moment. The thing is, Nate doesn't just lead, he empowers. So instead of taking it for himself, he decided to share it. I coached for the rest of the game in front of family, friends, and the state that made me who I am. Some people talk about culture, standard, and values, but Nate Tibbetts lives it. I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my career. I'll say it again. This place is special. That relationship, that camaraderie between coaches, it's not something that is just stumbled upon. It's on purpose, and things like this just make it grow in droves. And you know, Stephen and I have talked at length, at nauseum, for the last 2 years about how important Chrissy Tolliver, Megan Vogel, and the sports staff, how important they are to this, franchise. And like we also keep getting kind of blessed in that they keep getting passed over for head coaching positions, and like you hate it for them, but you love it for us. And things like this make it a little bit easier on the stomach for them, I think. And it just makes their job more enjoyable. And when you love who you work with, you never work a day in your life. And I think that it shows in the culture, and it breeds down from the coaching staff.
Team chemistry is not exclusive to the players on the roster. Team chemistry is all throughout the locker room. And just as I was talking about the player-coach relationship, players see a unified front in the coaching staff, and they see that type of relationship being fostered, and you trust them more. And when you talk about this stage of the year and the preseason, and a big part of that when you're incorporating new pieces and learning new things all on the fly and doing it on the court, you need to trust the people who are telling you what to do. And when you see the coaches have that type of moment and share that type of embrace, like that's not just for the cameras. Again, it's not just for social media. It's not a caption that she would have written out just because it sounded good, right? Like this type of communication and connection with the coaches goes on into the locker room, and the players are able to have that as well. And I think having that type of environment from the staff, through the players, through the support staff, all throughout the building, talks about everybody being in lockstep and being on the same page. And that gives you a head start towards, one, starting the season off the right way, but also finding success.
Yeah. Another Nipsey Hussle quote. The greatest leaders are servants first. This is a form of servitude. This is a form of empowerment. I know people are making this moment about me if I'm speaking as Nate, but I also know that I got somebody that's in the trenches for me doing some of the most unthanked, unforgiving work to help make this thing that is the Phoenix Mercury that we're in charge of work to the extent that it has. They don't get to the finals without Coach Vogel's efforts. They also don't get to the finals last season without Nate Tibbetts empowering and challenging his coaching staff by way of that empowerment. This is another example of the overarching leadership that this Mercury franchise has worked to establish, but also I think even bigger than that, bigger picture, Matt Ishbia came in and immediately started talking about wanting to change the people with the franchise, and said that sustained winning comes from day-to-day approach, and it starts with the people in the building. And if you have people that show up consistently with a certain type of approach to where alignment isn't just a thing that they're chasing, it's baked into their everyday habits, you don't have to think about those things. You just go and you do and you act, and it becomes contagious. That's an example of it. They could have just went about that whole day and said, yeah, it's all about me. This is me being back home, all of that. Nope. How about I share that spotlight with somebody else, put them in a position, And for the people that play 2K, that's like a plus 150 in your team chemistry boost as far as that goes.
Oh, well, I'm glad we could get all the simpy, sappy stuff out of the way. I was really excited to talk about it, but I don't want to take away too much longer from the actual basketball at hand. So I want to get this quick ad break out of the way, and then we'll be back to talk about the actual game itself right after this quick break on the PHNX Mercury podcast. Union. Oh, I didn't know there was a screen. There we go. Our friends over at Mountain America Credit Union, the exclusive home of the Phoenix Mercury card. If you weren't familiar, now you are. You can get these super elite cards from the official credit union of the Phoenix Mercury, available as both debit and credit cards. Even better, take advantage of a special checking and credit card promotion for Phoenix Mercury fans, where you can get a $200 bonus when you open a Mercury credit card and a MyStyle checking account. The no annual credit cards are available as low rate cashback or rewards card options. My Cell account unlocks actually a lot of benefits that aren't even on my list. Loan rate protection, telehealth access, mobile phone protection, but then there's also quite a few more. Mountain America Credit Union is here to guide you forward on your financial journey. Get your Mercury card today and score your $200 bonus. Visit macu.com/Mercury200 to learn more. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. This limited time offer ends December 31st and can be changed, withdrawn at any time. Terms, conditions, and exclusions do apply. Do you guys travel a lot?
A little bit, yeah.
Not
on the basketball court, though.
That question strikes a crazy chord that we don't have time for, so I'm going to let you continue.
You know what the most annoying thing about traveling is?
Booking?
When you're somewhere, you're doing something, you're so excited to be there. You're probably at, an unnamed amusement park. I feel like Max might get mad at me if I name one there. But then you got your sunglasses on the top of your head. You're about to take a picture with your family. You put them down next to you, and next thing you know, they're gone. You either forgot them, someone stole them. Next thing you know, now you're staring at the sun all day. It's awful, but you know who's going to help you out with that? Shady Rays, because they will never let you be without your sunglasses. Even on day one, as soon as you get them in the mail, they have 100% guaranteed replacement guarantee. It's incredible. You literally can lose them yourself. It can be user error, and they will still say, here's your free sunglasses to replace those ones. So now I can actually wear my sunglasses without being stressed out the entire day that I'm going to put them on the table, because I'm inevitably probably going to do that, and then leave them behind because Shady Rays has my back. And to get my sunglasses to wear out in public in the first place, I can go to their website, shadyrays.com, use code PHNXSR to get 50% off 2 or more pairs. I can't think of a much better deal. So get on over to Shady Rays, buy your sunglasses, or 2 or 3 or 4, and even if you lose them, you'll have them again a few days later. So cop those, and we will be on about our merry way. We've talked a lot about Kahleah, but we haven't even actually talked about the basketball that she played. And I mean, I don't want to pat our, all 3 of us on the back or anything, right? I know it's one preseason game. There's a lot of things to, be seen. But I just, we talked about who's going to replace Satou Sabally. And then Kahleah Copper comes out, hits her first 3 3-pointers in a row. I think she had 12 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. And I could be wrong about the timing on all of that, but I know I'm not far off. And she just was putting the ball in the hoop at such a fast and confident rate. And I think, if you go back to season 1, when Kahleah Copper was first joining the Phoenix Mercury, Steven and I talked a lot about, Nate Tibbetts imploring her to take extra 3-point shots and imploring her that to take open shots that are hers. He wants the ball in her hands. He believes in her ability to score the ball. And you saw that in droves when they played versus the Chicago Sky on Saturday. And, obviously, it's Kahleah's old team. I'm sure there's a little bit extra pep in her step. But at the end of the day, basketball is basketball. And Kahleah Copper was able to come out and kind of light the Nets on fire. And I feel like kind of proved our point to a T almost without us even asking her to do so. So I was pretty impressed with that. The scoring volume and how she did it, how quick she did it, how comfortably she did it. And I can't imagine we're going to see much less, in tomorrow's game versus the Japanese national team.
This is not news at all, but if Kahleah Copper is healthy, She's no worse than a top 12 player in the WNBA. And from my watching eye, she can peak out at like number 7 or 6 in the top 10 of the WNBA. That's just how prolific of a talent she is comprehensively. Doesn't get the credit that she deserves on the defensive end, and I imagine that's going to be part of her motivation this season because she sees and hears everything that's being said about the franchise and the team and who is and isn't here anymore and how they're going to replace a player that maybe is or isn't here. And she like, I forgot about little old 2021 Finals MVP me. Like I forgot about little old top 8 MVP and top 8 MVP finish in my very first season with the Mercury. Like there's few players that rise to the occasion in ways that Kahleah Copper does, whether that be individual moments over the course of a regular season or playoff risers come postseason play. She doesn't get that nickname that she well earned from Asia freaking Wilson on that stage being the Olympics without being that type of riser to those extents. If Kah's healthy, and I imagine she's been intentional about whatever weaknesses was with her body that kept her sidelined last season to be more healthy for her team, she might have another top 8, top 7 MVP type season if she strikes that health. And I think a large part of that is going to be her adding more points to the bag by way of her confidence and comfortability with that 3 ball.
Talk about being a top 12, top 7 player in the league. You talk about what is the common thread among players who are considered elite and elite skill. 16 points in 8 minutes in the first quarter. Kahleah Copper field scoring. That's an elite level, an elite clip to score the basketball. 19 in the 13 minutes or 13 and a half minutes she played, or 13 minutes she played. Let me not. 19 points in 13 minutes in that game. That sounds silly. That legitimately sounds silly. And you talk about health and knowing that it was preseason last year where the health issues started to arise. Just to have the luxury of being healthy throughout this part and going into the regular season with that momentum. And that's just talking about the scoring part. And you talk about being underrated on defense. And the thing that you can't measure is the heart and the fire with which she has always played. Well, now you got somebody who wants to prove something, and with all the noise and assumptions or expectations or whatever word you want to use around this team, that is the biggest thing you don't want to give a player like that. So I fully expect her to continue to carry this motivation into the season, but also the health being the big part of it all to get out to a great start. That is how you put forth an MVP caliber campaign, and just to have the continuity again in this being year 3 and all the things that kind of work in her favor as far as the situation goes. We saw that in those numbers, and I expect to see more of the same moving forward.
For me, yeah, Kah's a problem, man. We saw it in the we saw it in the finals. I think it's a very different context, but Satu goes down. Kahleah knows that there's a importance level she has to step up, and just instantly comes out, knocks down a couple of timely threes, couple of steals, couple of finishes at the basket that reinvigorates the crowd as they work to stave off the ultimate finish to that game to end the series in the finals. Like that's not by happenstance. You don't luck your way into all of these accolades that she's earned with these high leverage, high stakes moments, and she's just rising to the occasion of the moment. It's not easy. But I talked with Nate Tibbetts at practice earlier today about the evolution of Kah's shot profile. And here is what he had to say about her taking more threes this season.
Yeah, just let it rip. Whatever that number may be, if you're open, shoot it. I think we're going to be a little bit a different team offensively as far as just moving it side to side. And then just we have to be a better screening team off ball. We ran a lot of pick and roll last year, and we're going to do that too this year, but just more of the side to side stuff and creating a problem with our screening. I don't know what that number is. I mean, I'm hoping it's close to 7+, but we'll see. I think as every season kind of tells a new story, but in practice she's letting it go, which we like.
So context wise with Kahleah, over the course of her career, specifically as a Phoenix Mercury member, she's shooting 35.1% on 5.7 attempts. She shot like 5.1 her first season and 5.9 the second, or something along the lines of those two. That's pretty good. To jump from averaging 5.7 over her first two seasons to 7 or 7 plus, that's a big jump. That takes some buy-in, that takes some adjusting of approach to the game. And I'm very curious to see how she kind of massages a more steady diet of threes into her profile. Now, what can make that a lot easier is if their spacing continues to improve on what it was last season, and Alyssa Thomas is just living in the paint to even further extents than she did last season. That means there's just that much more catch and shoots for Kahleah, which she's been really good with over the course of the last like 4 seasons of her career. So she can do it. It's not a surprise, and I think the most recent kind of more relevant games that we can kind of gauge and assess that from is in FIBA back in March. So they played 4 games, or they played 5 games in Puerto Rico, and she went 40% on 3.8 attempts. Now, obviously, context of a team is very different than what the Mercury have, but I think it was a whole lot more of an egalitarian approach to where they're moving it side to side, like Nate mentioned, and then they're working to get paint touches after that, and you're creating closeouts and catch and shoots for players to play off of. And Kah was cashing in on those catch and shoots. But I think the part that really is going to be impressive for me is in pick and roll or in dribble handoffs. When teams try to cheat under, or maybe they gap off a switch and she just gets into a pull-up pocket and doesn't hesitate. That's going to be where I'm really looking to see how it translates and impacts her game. Because if she can go from 24 or 25 a game, which we've seen her do multiple times before, to knocking down 1 or 2 more threes over the course of that game, you're talking about somebody else that's going to be in that flirting with the 30-point per game average. And I don't think that's something that's unsustainable for her either.
You talk about an identity and doubling down, or for the sake of the conversation, tripling down on the identity. A team that shot a shade under 28 threes a game last year, which ranks third in the league, or ranked third in the league, coincidentally, took 34 in that game, and Kyle was 4 of 6 again in 13 minutes. But just the fact that, last year, I think half of the 44 games, the team attempted more than 28 threes. So if you tick that up for her to 7.5 threes per game, and then have other people who are also spacing the floor that they can do that. Thinking about, again, the identity and tripling down on it and what that's going to do for the offensive flow, what we talked about last week with just being intentional about what it is that you do and not thinking twice. As he said, you're open, let it rip. Let it rip. And that applies obviously to your best offensive talent, but to other shooters who you have on the floor. If you're asking that of your best offensive talent, then of course that's going to be expected of you if you're specializing in knocking down threes, because that's how this offense is going to want to flow. So that makes it exciting. That also was a big part of when you're in this new stage of the season. What are we going to expect? What are we going to see? Okay, we know for a fact that this is what we do and how we do it. And if it's not going well, or we're not finding success, it's because we're not doing it enough or not doing it well enough. So I think that's a really important part of the newness, kind of like that first day of school or first week of school vibes you have when it's preseason and you're getting ready for opening day.
Erica, this is a balanced strike between manure strip versus 3-point efficiency and effectiveness. Gil hasn't heard of the manure strip. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I will concede the floor to you to inform him on what the manure strip is and what's the lure of it.
Gil, when you think about Kahleah Copper, what type of shot do you think of?
One that goes in? Nah.
Valid. I like
Fair.
that. But me personally, I think of her from the mid-range. I think of her from somewhere in the middle, probably pulling up, maybe in transition, but usually mid-range. Until Kahleah Copper came to Phoenix, actually, I really never associated her much as a three-point shooter, to be very honest with you. That said, some folks didn't like that Nate Tibbetts was straying away from the manure strip, but he didn't say that we were straying away from the manure strip. He just said that they weren't going to take out of context shots in the manure strip. They're not going to take off rhythm shots in the manure strip. They're not going to be taking shots from the manure strip for fun. And, we've kind of adopted it fondly because a lot of the general population took that and ran in all sorts of directions with that nonsense. But now, whenever someone goes off from the mid range, we get to talk about cow poop, and so it's a hoot and a holler. Welcome to the manure strip family.
Yeah, I haven't heard the word manure said that many times over and over again, probably ever in life, actually. So this is a foundational moment for me.
We got manure and South Dakota mentioned multiple times on a basketball podcast. Many firsts.
Like I said earlier, follow PHNX_Mercury on Twitter, where you can find all the more content just like this, because where else are you hearing about manure and South Dakota all in one podcast? I'm not sure.
Hey.
But yeah, Rob literally says in the chat that Lynx game winner, like mid-range. So yeah, I expect the manure strip to be another topic of conversation this year, but I hope that Nate Tibbetts doesn't say manure strip again, because he actually, I wish that I could say, Gil, that me and Steven made that up, but we did not. Nate Tibbetts said that on his own accord, and then we got to talk about it for an entire season. So shout out to him for that.
Now I get to
Steven,
talk
did
about
you
it.
ask me that for a reason so I don't move on?
What was that?
Oh, did you ask me that for a reason so I don't move on?
No. I felt like you were the
okay.
person to have that.
Give me that lesson real quick.
Yeah.
Appreciate
I
that.
did it right. I did an all right job, right? I told him how it was.
I don't think he has any questions about what it is. So that means you did your job thoroughly.
Crystal clear.
Thank goodness. But you did bring up the Alyssa Thomas of it all regarding Kahleah Copper's shot profile, and I think you and I, the three of us last week talked about the continuity of the team, and the one place that I do feel kind of like lacks continuity in a little bit of a way is Kahleah Copper and AT's on court dynamic, and with Satu last season and how those two were kind of in tandem quite frequently, and it kind of left Kahleah Copper a little bit to be desired in terms of her on-court dynamic with AT. And so, in AT's 14 minutes on Saturday, obviously she has 8 assists and probably could have, flirted with a triple-double in preseason had Nate Tibbetts left her in the game, but neither here nor there. But I think that relationship and that chemistry is just going to go up a lot this year, and both of those numbers for both of them are going to climb up. I think last year Alyssa Thomas walked away averaging 9.5 assists or 8.5 assists. I could be wrong, but I want to say I'm pretty on the meter there, and I think she could definitely average at least 10 if Kahleah Copper is playing the way she is. And in my show notes today, I think the most important sentence on here is that if Kahleah Copper plays like this consistently, nobody's going to be able to call the Mercury underdogs for that much longer, including the Mercury. Love y'all, but we should relax. So yeah, I think that those numbers are going to jump for both of them.
I think we might be in store for seeing the best version of Kahleah Copper. And if that best version of Kahleah Copper comes with the level of play sustained from Alyssa Thomas for the last decade at this point, guess what the Mercury might find themselves right back in the mix of again. Potentially picking up where they left off last season, and I would not be surprised by that because they have 2 dogs at the top of their roster. They also have 2 highly experienced players playing at the highest stages, whether it be Olympic gold medals, whether it be WNBA championship contention, whether it be just the highest of stakes in a playoff series. And then they also have the continuity, to your point, Erica, of they just went through the fire last season. They both have that shared taste of not coming up with the goal that they had expectation-wise of what they put together last season. I think there's something to say about a roster having 2 dogs at the top of it that also have the experience of coming up just short of what their expectations were and having an opportunity to get right back at it with a lot more continuity to hit the ground running with the very next season following. That have their work cut out for them for sure. It's going to come with challenges for sure. But I don't know if I would bet against those 2 individuals, especially if they're on the same team, up against everybody, because it's been, for them individually, me versus everybody since they got into the W, and that's been their claim to fame. That kind of that positive competitive stubbornness, if you will.
No, for sure. And it kind of goes back to the competitive stubbornness, the fire, and also the talent.
Shh. You hear that? Y'all hear that barking?
Oh,
Y'all hear that barking?
I gotta work on that. I'm not debuting mine yet. Nope. But the dog
I've had a
factor,
lot of
There you go,
practice.
boom.
the dog
There you
factor
go,
of it
boom.
all, and the fact that you said one player in Kah is debatably top 7, top 10, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Then another top 3, right? So like to say like to have that level of talent
Mhm.
in your locker room on your roster and filling out a team that should check the boxes of what you need around that level of talent, then it's just a matter of okay, what are you gonna do with the chip in your shoulder? I think that you mentioned Erica like saying that you might not be an underdog for so long. You can tell yourself that, and then like when people start believing in you, you can't say nobody believes in us anymore. But you can trick yourself into that for a little while, and maybe that's like what it is. Like, can you have that chip on your shoulder, even if it's manufactured throughout the year? How can that last you for the first 22 games of the season to get you off to a start that's 15-7 or 16-6 out of the gates, to give yourself some type of leeway like that as far as the standings go? So I'm excited to see how they use that type of motivation and just use that to outplay and outwork opponents. But it really helps that when your stars are the type of people that want to outwork you and not just do it like the flashy way, but they're not afraid to bark and get it done that type of way, which is exciting.
Yeah, trench
I was
warfare.
Trench warfare in the
warfare.
trenches.
Mhm.
I was really going to keep the barking like close to the chest until the actual season opener versus the Aces. We got a fun post game show planned for that, and I was hoping for an excuse to whip out the thunder sticks, the barking, the whole 9 yards for the season opener.
It's a little
You know what I
preview.
mean? You're right. But I want to talk about the training camp attendees after this quick break. Is there anything else in Kahleah Copper and AT before we move on out of here though?
I think we've said plenty
Cover
about
all the
those two.
bases.
For sure.
Beat the dead horse.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I mean, would you guys rather me beat a live horse? Like, I feel like, anyways, anyways. Well, we're gonna talk about the training camp attendees and those contracts here after this quick break on the PHNX Mercury podcast. Don't go anywhere. Thank goodness, you guys. The Window Depot surprise is now open. Is that any closer to me? No, but it is most certainly closer to you guys, so that's super lit. And thank God, because it's about to get even hotter in Arizona, besides just the winning basketball, but also obviously summer is around the corner. How old are your windows? It's not just about style, it's about comfort and savings. New windows can lower your energy bill instantly. Serving Arizona since 2002, while they were started with just windows, they are more than just a window store. They've got windows, doors, cabinets, vanities, and more, including but not limited to flooring now, by the way, in stock and ready for pickups. They've got best price, best inventory, from windows and doors to cabinets to countertops, and they stock more so you just spend less. No wait times, no gimmicks. Shop online, pick up in store, or browse and order directly at thewindowdepot.com with real-time access to in-stock products at your nearest locations. Get what you need when you need it. I actually need a new window right here. It's not letting enough light today. I'm looking a little dark. I'm not gonna lie. Last one though, Fanatics app. Listen, Fanatics has made a fan out of me recently. They just put on a little sale on their little app where you can buy jerseys. I got my Ja Morant jersey for $21. Granted, is that a sign for what's to come for me? Yes, of course it is. Do I care? No, because Fanatics gave me a $21 Ja Morant jersey, and it's the City Edition, so I'm very excited and happy and joyous. So, shout out to the Fanatics app. They're the all-in-one destination for every part of your sports fandom, whether it's the Phoenix Mercury, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Phoenix Suns, whoever you're really a fan of, they've got you covered with merch, jerseys, extra gear. Plus, they've got exclusive games through the Fanatics app for the playoffs. For your chance to win fan cash. I'm really sorry. It's all in one place, all built for fans like us. To download the Fanatics app and start cashing in on your fandom today. Get it today at phnx.com/Fanatics. App access open to all. 21 plus to play. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. Void where prohibited. Bang. I haven't done an ad read in like quite literally 6 months. So shout out to you guys for suffering through my uhs and ums
You
because
said it was the Ja Morant City edition, or was it the Gritty edition?
And Gil's muted.
I'm not gonna lie, like, was I so excited to order it? Yes. Was I really sad when it got to my house? Because I was like, oh, this is probably gonna be my only John Moran jersey ever in my life, you know? So I'm a little sad about it. Well, whatever. That's neither here nor there. In case you're new here, I'm from Memphis. I didn't just pick Memphis for, to be against these guys. I feel like that would be kind of rude. So, but I promise I didn't do that. So, anyways, I want to take a second to read these comments that I haven't read in a really long time. Laura AZ Kitty Mom says, Gil, you are made for the PHNX crew, barking a manure strip in 10 minutes or less without missing a beat. I can't agree more, dude. Like, it's been
Appreciate
lit.
that.
And
Thanks.
yeah, and you
It's an
handled it
honor.
very nicely. I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh, he's going to think I'm a weirdo. And he probably does. But
We're all a little weird. We're basketball weirdos.
just wait till I thunderstick your ears to death. That will be when you're like, ah, this girl has got to learn how to shut up.
I appreciate the warning, though. So now I won't be caught off guard.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think I'm capable of a lot of things, including but not limited to catching people off guard via the
Fair.
thunder sticks.
Fair.
I want to rip off the Band-Aid with the rookie training camp contracts, and I apologize if this person is not actually on a training camp contract. I could be fibulating this information right now, but I'm not, I don't want to use the word nervous because obviously Monique Kolomakani is not here yet. And I feel like that is such a big piece of what the Mercury were able to do last season. But I was a little bit nervous about the re-addition of Kiana Williams and what that would mean for the team. But frankly, she very much impressed me in her minutes on Saturday. She passed when she should have. She took open shots when she should have, and then she went on to make those open shots. And I think, when you're playing in a system like the Phoenix Mercury is going to have, where the ball's going to move so much through AT, and then obviously Kahleah Copper, DeWanna Bonner, Sammy Whitcomb, those type of people are going to have first dibs on the open shots. But when you have a point guard, a backup point guard that is capable of taking and making open shots and then also reading the floor, I don't think that there is much more of a valuable backup point guard that you can have. So Kiana Williams got my vote of belief on Saturday, I guess I should say.
I will say that's a name that you definitely were singing the praises of when we talked last week, and made you look good, which no surprise as far as knowing what you talked about. And yeah, right. They say when you play with skill, good luck will happen. Jay-Z said that. So yeah, just I wanted to say that before you said anything, because I was like, oh, sounds familiar. Somebody said this last week before they stepped the foot on the floor.
Appreciate that. Yeah, Kiana's a hustler. And I think more than anything, she was around last season, so she knows what the expectations are. She also knows what the standard is. And she's able to kind of serve the purpose of another leader for them to kind of keep on that beaten path that they established last year, getting new players up to speed, while also kind of leading by example more than anything else. And yeah, she came out sharp. She was ready to hoop. Came out and did all the things I feel like Nate and company are challenging her to do. And more than anything, she's hungry for a main rotation spot. She came into a team that was already established last season amidst injury and was more insurance than a player that was going to come in and get minutes immediately. Then Fred was a great teammate, also soaked in all of the information that she possibly could have while being a great teammate over the course of that latter home stretch into the playoffs, into the finals last season. And then all of that on the other side of it wasn't much opportunity for her then, but playing the long game, being a good teammate, got her opportunity with this team again going into training camp now. And you see her starting to do the work for what's likely going to result in some capacity, a main rotation type of opportunity for her. And I could very much see her kind of serving a very similar role to what Lexi Held was for the Mercury last season, as that backup point guard to everything that is AT being a point guard, and then Monica Kolomakani also being a point guard. Kiana is a player that she talked about last week when I was asking her, what does her impact look like with this team this season? Talked about knocking down threes, but she really got more to the blue-collar stuff. She said she wants to come in and kind of speed the game up, pick up the ball full court, be active on defense, be a good player that's good with spacing but also cutting and things like that. And again, for a player that has the type of bag that she does, I think it's a very organic compliment to the process that Nate is establishing with Christy Tolliver and pulling those strings on offense, but also just in general to everything that Alyssa Thomas and Kahleah Copper are as individual talents.
The other two names I wanted to mention just briefly before we get out of here was Kara Dunn and Chase Zeski. Both of them, Kara Dunn, in my opinion, on Saturday earned a roster spot. Whether that's here in Phoenix, I don't know. But if she doesn't get signed here in Phoenix, I think someone will look at that tape from Saturday and say, you belong in the WNBA. Did she score the most points on the floor? No, but she was efficient, and I don't want to lie on her. Oh no, she literally did not miss a shot. That's on me for I was about to lie on her. But she was 4 for 4 from the field for 13 points in 12 minutes. I mean, what better of a stat line can you have when you're coming off the bench, ice cold, and then you go on and not miss a shot? And then Chase Zeski, I think was just a super solid in her minutes on Saturday. And Steven, I want to look at what these videos are so I can make sure we talk about them before we get out of here. And that's why
Yeah,
I look like
I'll
I'm
go ahead and
scrolling
cue.
all around.
I'll go ahead and cue the first one up. So, on the news front, it's
Ugh.
with great unfortunate news that I have to cue this one up, but we got an injury update on Kathryn Westbeld that I don't think anybody really was aware of. Here was what Nate had to say about Kathryn Westbeld's availability for the Mercury going into this season.
Good question. So she tore her ACL in her right knee in the last game overseas, so she'll miss the whole 2026 season. So tough deal for her. She was a big part of what we did last year. Was excited to get back and was close to coming back healthy, and unfortunately stuff like this happens.
Really, really tough blow for the Mercury, for Kat, for their continuity. There's only but a few players that were more instrumental to this continuity that they were working towards for this season than Kathryn Westbeld was. Talk about time on task, give a player a task, their ability to just over deliver on that to the extent of eventually having her starting for the first pretty much half of the season as Mac was working back from injury and the Mercury were figuring everything else out. Kathryn Westbeld was one of the mainstays. You look at that first road trip that they had, where they had a handful of days where they went to New York and then they went to play in Connecticut and then Chicago and everywhere in between there, starting after Vegas. Kathryn Westbeld was just firmly involved in all of that, knocking down timely shots, making big plays, outplaying players on the other side of the floor that she's matched up with. Some players that maybe didn't know that she had that type of impact on the Mercury team. They don't get to the finals without Kathryn Westbeld doing the many timely moment things that she did in versatility, but also that time on task that I mentioned. Hoping for a speedy recovery for her. Like Nate mentioned, she will not be with the team on the court for the entirety of the 2026 season. I
When do we
imagine
get to abolish knees?
I mean, we could just
I'm
start with
tired of this,
injuries.
Grandpa.
We could just start with
Like,
injuries in general, to be honest. But yes, the knees especially, because man, the most disliked part of sports and basketball especially. Yeah, hoping for a speedy recovery with her. But we also did get to speak with Nate today about just that first opportunity to now come back home to Phoenix and play in front of the home crowd since the end of the finals. Here's what he had to say about tomorrow's preseason game at home.
It's going to be great to be home. Yeah, I know that they're excited after such a good playoff run last year. Felt like we kind of had the same thing a little bit in Sioux Falls. It was a great atmosphere being there, but nothing's like the Phoenix, X Factor. They set the tone, and that was the cool thing about South Dakota. Everyone's like, man, that was just a preseason game in Sioux Falls. Like, we got to come to Phoenix. And I was like, yeah, come on out.
Maybe the thing I'm most excited about at this present moment is when this guy here gets his first opportunity to experience the Mercury atmosphere, the in-game presentation, the energy in the arena, and the way that the crowd plays to the team, and the way that the team in turn responds to the way that the crowd plays to the dynamic. You don't get an X Factor dubbing from the one and only Cheryl Miller without earning it,
Mm-hmm.
and her acknowledging the impact that a true X factor brings is a home court advantage. Having been in so many arenas, that's probably gonna need to be a supplemental video. Gil McGregor's first in arena experience watching the Phoenix Mercury play basketball. Especially not even in compare and contrast, but just looking at the high energy that was a Suns game this season and being able to compare it and just kind of look at it like, oh, this is a different basketball environment.
There's less anxiety in the air at a Mercury game, to be honest. I don't know. It's like I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I think the Mercury crowd like really gets into like enjoying the basketball. And I think sometimes the Suns crowd, playoffs may be put to the side, but I think in general, like a Suns crowd, I feel like is always like wanting that like next thing. Like, okay, if we win this, we better win the next one though. I think the Mercury crowd is just kind of more like happy to be in the moment with the team in the arena. And it's a really cool, intimate experience, to be honest.
I'm excited because obviously watched plenty of Merc games on TV, and you can hear the crowd, you can hear the energy, you can hear the chants. I remember it took me a while to figure out what they were saying, and when I did, I was like, "Oh, that's super cool." But to be able to experience that in person, especially for like marquee games this year, I'm really excited about doing it because, again, there's certain arenas, whether it's college, whether it's the W, whether it's the NBA, like for basketball games, you can just kind of sense the energy through the broadcast and hear the crowd pops and hear how they react and how they can actually be an X factor because we said the other day, the crowd is never going to be the reason that you lose a game, but the crowd can help you win a game. Mm-hmm. And to know that their crowd is capable of that, I'm super excited to experience that firsthand, and it'll be happening sooner rather than later.
I personally, I've been to a lot of arenas in my life, and I think Kevin actually said it really great. Like the level of freedom that you have inside of a Mercury game is like second to none. Like you just get to be yourself, have fun, and watch basketball. And I just feel like in a lot of like other environments, you might see people trying to cop their Instagram pics and, be there for things other than basketball. And when you're at a Mercury game, like you just know everyone in the room loves the team as much as you do. And I think it's a really, really special thing. Even like I think back to the finals when the Aces were, about to sweep the Mercury. Like even the Aces fans that were there were impressed with the crowd there and what type of environment you're able to kind of bring in. And I should have pulled the tweet before the show today, but the Winsider founder, and I apologize, his first name escapes me, but he talked about how like the Mercury kind of set the bar when they went to South Dakota for away games that were home games. And I think that that's not the only moment where you could say that the Mercury set the bar. And I think, now when you look at the Mercury and how they have 3 basketball courts to play on during the season, 3 different courts for their arena. That the only WNBA team in the country
down
with that. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you're right. You are tripling down on your culture and you're tripling down on the belief that you have in your community and your fan base. And it shows in every little interaction, the, Mac doing the dance at the end of the game. You're going to have to send me the link to the clip. Okay, guys, of Gil watching Mac dance and hearing the truck horn over the PA for the first time. It's electric. I love that word, but I feel like I learned the true meaning of electric in person at Mercury games.
Yeah. Electric is probably a great one-word description for what a Mercury in-arena experience is. It could be game 14 of the 44-game regular season. It could be the home opener. It could be the first home game in the finals for their slate of games that they'll have at home. It's going to be electric. And I think that's something that the Mercury can always count on. And I imagine that's something that when games grow a little more contentious, knowing that that's an overarching advantage you're always going to have, that's something that's different. And I think that speaks to just, again, why the Mercury, as one of the blue bloods of women's basketball on a professional stage, really stands out. The field of competition is growing more thorough by the season with the expansion. There's not another franchise that does it the way that the Mercury do. And I think it's the way that the community and the franchise play to one another that gives it this type of mystique, this type of reverence across the entire W. Even players on the road come in and say, man, it was different. And then they end up with the Mercury, and they said, yeah, I used to hate coming here to play because it was always tough. It's like another team you're going against, in addition to the team with the purple and orange on in some capacity.
Man, you
that
got me
you're going up
excited,
against.
man. We got to get let's
And like I said, this next
come on, let's go.
This supplemental video with Gil after Gil's first in arena experience for a Mercury game is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited.
Gil, I expect at least one honk, one bark, and a thunderstick clapathon.
That'll be a triple single for me. You got it.
Have we missed anything today that you guys wanted to mention before we get on out of here?
I was trying to remember what the exact total for national TV games for the Mercury is going to be this season. I could not find it. I thought I put it in my notes. It was not there.
Did you tweet it?
Did we tweet it?
Did you tweet it?
I don't think so.
I thought you did.
I might have. There's been a lot going on the last couple weeks.
28 regular season, blah, 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 blah. I thought I could find it quickly, but I guess I cannot.
I think the overarching point I was going to make is that they'll have more national TV games this season than they did last season.
It's 28.
It's 28?
Yeah.
So, Erica, remember a consistent conversation of part of why the Mercury were, quote-unquote, under the radar all of last season was because the 3 and 4 letter networks just went. They didn't have the Mercury on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's gonna be a lot less ambiguity about this team's potential, just from a national eye, based on that news that came out since we last recorded, pertaining to the schedule and everything that comes with that. I'm looking forward to this team just kind of ingratiating itself with the national graces and how they navigate this now 44 game, historic 44 game regular season.
What Steven is saying is, Holly Rowe, we'll be seeing you. I'll be looking out. Nonetheless,
also, we'll take this quick 10 seconds for ISO. Molly Miller is apparently going to be involved with the Phoenix Mercury broadcast this season. Molly Miller, if you would like to come talk some Mercury hoop, that's Erica Day. That's Gil McGregor. You can't see him, but that's Kevin Thomas. I'm Steven Prejean Gardner. We would love to talk some Mercury basketball with you at some point this season.
As long as there's no mention of no Scum Devils, I think we're in business.
Leave me out of that.
I mentioned Mercury 3 or 4 times, hoping that we could keep that on topic.
I think the issue is that Molly, like our coach, the Wildcats coach, Becky Burke, is online a little bit. And so I feel like Molly knows who Erica is. I feel like Molly knows what Erica's get down is. Molly might even have seen one of my tweets before. This would have to be like a Steven and Gil special. You know what I mean?
I agree. I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And, the rivalry is heated, I don't want to make any, special jokes there.
What it sounds like is that would make for some good content.
Start a little controversy.
Controversy is crazy.
What the hell are we
Never change, Kevo. Never change, brother.
Oh man, I. Well, we've done some really incredible work here today, folks. We will be back on Thursday at 5:30. So put it in your calendar, mark it on your refrigerator, wherever you put your little event. List the PHNX Mercury podcast there on Thursday at 5:30. I don't remember what next week's schedule is, but I promise I will put it on Twitter for you at my earliest convenience. But be sure to follow all of us. You can follow me at Erica Lee Day. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. You can follow Gil at Gil McGregor _
That's me.
Bang. And then you can follow our super dope producer at Kevo Post, where he talks about literally every sport known to mankind because he's producing 75 different shows every single week. You can also follow all of us hooting and hollering together at PHNX _ Mercury, where I frequently post too many times a day. So if you need any more fix of your Mercury content, go ahead, head up to all of those places. Also, there's preseason games, obviously, with the Mercury tomorrow, but there's more than that. Then there's preseason on Thursday, preseason on Friday. So be on the lookout. We're back. We get to watch WNBA basketball on our TVs again, and I'm feeling just as jazzed as I'm sure that you are. So don't do anything I want to do, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.